Adam, thanks Andy for having me here. And you guys were forced to be here, right?
Yep.
So I'm not going to thank you yet. I'll thank you at the end. Listen, mental skills are really overlooked, really underappreciated. And your body's not going to do anything till your brain does it first. And that includes, I mean, have you ever heard of this phrase, speed of play is really speed of decision? So you can't play quickly until your brain processes and makes a decision quickly. So if you want to be a faster player, it isn't about just running faster, it's about making decisions faster. So much of this all starts in your brain, and people like me just love to coach that aspect of being an athlete. So that's what this is about. I'm going to whiz through this, and you're supposed to go out and train, maybe. But I'm going to try and go a little bit fast so I cover lots of stuff, and going to entertain you a little bit, and hopefully you're going to leave here thinking a little bit differently than you did when you came in about the mental aspect of the game. So, next slide. When things go terribly wrong, we have some videos. It's very famous, Eric Cantona.
When it was twice the thing, linesman Eddie Gorge, which helped him. Oh, what's going on here? Cantona getting involved in some corners. Oh, this is outrageous.
They call it his kung fu kick. Went into the stands and kicked a fan.
Got wildly out of hand, and once more, Eric Cantona is the man at the centre of a dramatic controversy.
Controversy, you might have been on. There's some more. I think we have 4. So let's look at I don't think there's any sound. So this girl is number 15. I think she got kicked off the team and out of college, actually.
Lost her scholarship.
Lost her scholarship, the whole thing. And the referee never saw it. This was all her repercussions came because the video was shown to the administration at her school. There is sound on this one.
Say he did what? Can you give us a bit more of a clue? He said something? He certainly said something. And what happens? He's saying some more. The pictures tell the story. He leaves football in disgrace. He leaves his team in big trouble. France down to 10 men. And the showpiece of the World Game has an unsavoury moment here. It will make the headlines beyond the result, I feel.
I don't know what the next slide is after that. So, what I'm just going to say to you right now before we even go to the next slide is 15, 20 seconds of those particular players' lives changed their future because they couldn't manage themselves. Agreed? I mean, it's kind of humorous for us to look at it, and I'm chuckling right along with you, but they suffered disastrous consequences because of the whole lack of mental control in the heat of the moment. What I want to also talk to you about that's less extreme, but still hugely detrimental, probably even the deciding factor in how you play or how your team plays. I don't know what happened to my slide. Chris Barnhart probably moved it. Is when you have self-doubt or lack of confidence. You have no idea how much it restricts your play because you're busy playing safe and potentially just withholding enough. It shows up in things like how tight are you supposed to be when you're 1v1 defending? 5 yards? 2 yards? Arm touch tight? How close are you supposed to be? Just throw out an answer. Touch tight. People who have self-doubt don't get touch tight, they get 4 yards away. It looks like they're defending, it's kind of fake defending, but that's usually the result of somebody not feeling confident. So they don't get in where they're supposed to get. Players that can't master intensity. You know the people who can't come to training and really get into it. They just kind of go along, but they never really bust a gut or do everything they can in that training session or really go after the ball because they can't control intensity. They don't have a trigger or a on-off switch. And then there are people who are not focused on what needs to be focused on. And here's a classic one. You come to training, you got a ton of homework to do at home, or you're starving and you need to go home and eat, and so you're already thinking about after training and not in training. So you're not really in the moment, you're not really focused. That's a mental skill. The last and probably the most detrimental one is when you have limiting thoughts or beliefs. It's always this way. I'm only good at this position. I can't contribute or get better when I'm injured. No one passes me the ball. He'll never play me there. Those are limiting thoughts and beliefs that change the way you play. So while I wanted to show you the video of the major biggie things, and I don't know if you have players here who have problems with major big things like yellow, red cards or fighting or anything like that, those are obviously really important, but these are more daily. These are more, they're going to slow you so far down in your progress and slow your team so far down in your progress that they actually, for me, are the determining ones. You can go to the next slide. I think I have animation I didn't know I had. So, keep clicking. So when it comes to this stuff, these things we can't control, a lot of players, a lot of male players, I'm just going to say, you know, the business about pushing the ref. Well, it's not my fault. It was a terrible call. Because I can't believe he made that call. So a lot of male players tend to put the blame on someone else and something else, rather than address that the ultimate solution lies within. Keep clicking. There we go. A lot of action in the slide. So this whole slide is to get you to recognize that if you are not aware of what's going on in your own head, then you're not managing it. It's managing you. It's taking over for you. So if you aren't focused and you're not even aware that that's an issue, then you're not actually dictating your future and your play. That is that you're not aware of. So today, I just want to bring to your awareness some of this stuff, give you a few pointers on how to start to work on your mental skills, and get you to appreciate where you can go in your career, in life, if you can manage yourself mentally. The athlete is your mind. Your mind is what dictates how good an athlete you are, not your body. Your body is just the tool your mind uses. So if you look at Usain Bolt, and his quote is, "The sky has no limits, neither do I." Obviously the guy is a stud and has an incredible athletic body. But which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did his beliefs and his thoughts come before he had this ability? Or did the ability come and then he had thoughts that went with it? Like somewhere in his story, he's got equal parts incredible athletic gifts and ability with the thought process and the mentality that goes with it. I mean, Messi, my ambition is always to get better and better. He's not talking about anything there except him being focused on daily improving the way he plays, even when he's considered the best in the world. That's his mentality. How many great swimmers does the United States have right now? I mean, if you watch the Olympics at all, incredible. Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. That's a mentality. That's a thinking aspect to their performance. Okay, looks like a complicated thing, and I'm going to kind of go quickly through it just to explain to you. So, your brain is inside your skull, and your brain does not know anything that's going on out here. I mean, if you close your eyes and close your ears, your brain doesn't know what's going on. It only knows what comes through your senses, what you see, what you hear, what you taste, what you smell, what you touch. So all this that's happening here in the world comes into your brain. There's so much going on. There's a little filtering and generalizing that happens. And then you begin to process it. And you process it based on your memories, your experiences, your values, the people you've been around, parents, coaches, teachers, friends. All those things are playing a role. So this is happening out here in the world, and I'm going to interpret it with my stuff, and you with yours, and you with yours, and you with yours, and it'd be the same exact thing, but I'd come up with it meaning something different from you, different from you, different from you, because we are all unique and individual with our experiences. And the meaning we put to this going on out here triggers an emotional response or a state, and that state that we're in drives our results. Some examples of states are determined, brave, aggressive, afraid, tentative. Give me another one. It's like there's like a million. Whatever emotional state we get ourselves in drives our behavior and therefore drives our result. So what I'm going to say to you is, where I come into play with athletes is we manage how we respond to what's going on. So we figure out, hey, why is it that when that happens it makes you think this, and we change it. We adapt our thinking so that we can be resourceful, so that we can look at things in a resourceful way and say, I need to look at it this way because this is what gets me what I want, and this is what gets me what I need. And those video clips of the people in the beginning, if they had just had 5 seconds of work on managing what they thought it meant with the referee's call, or the fan in the stands doing whatever that fan was doing, or Zidane with the, what was the story that the guy said something about his mother? The guy said something about his mother? Really? The guy said something about your mother? And you ruin the rest of your career in 2 seconds because you can't respond appropriately? You can. And that's what we work on. That's what I work on with athletes. So we'll go to the next slide. So, if you're not sure that what you're doing is going to get you where you want to go, here's how you leverage yourself. So the first question you ask yourself is, what will continuing to do what you're doing right now cost you over time? If you keep performing the way you're performing, if you keep approaching your training the way you're approaching it, if you keep doing exactly what you're doing, what will it cost you? What will you not get? What will you not have? What will you not experience? What will your team in turn not get, not have, not experience? And when you think about it over time, so you just started your season, you're like a month into it or something. So if you don't change anything about your mentality right now, if you don't change any of it, what could you be missing out on in 6 months, in 9 months, in a year? Maybe you want to play in college. What could you be? Would it affect where you're able to play at some level in college? Will it affect what some college coach sees in you or doesn't see in you? If you think about it that way, there's some motivation there. Another way to think about it is, what can you gain?
Sorry.
So when you do conquer some things like self-doubt or intensity or managing yourself in emotional situations, what can you gain? How will your experience playing soccer change? And what will happen to those closest to you? I'm assuming you're sitting near your friends. It's usually what we do, right? So if you did something different in your game, what would it do for them? Or your whole team? All of a sudden, you change the whole landscape just by one person changing one little thing they do. That's how you leverage yourself to kind of get you motivated. Hey, you know, maybe I'm going to give a little attention to this. Maybe I'm going to give this a go. This is sort of making sense. Go ahead, Nicola. Okay, so before we go any further, so this is Joe Hart. He is goalkeeper for Man City and for England. This
Just
is.
been transferred, sorry, Jen.
Oh, has he?
Yeah,
I
he's
haven't
at
even been
Torino.
paying attention.
Yeah, he's gone.
He's gone because he's not played well.
Well, they kicked him out for a year.
So, this is Nike football. It's not a commercial, but it's definitely been given some, it's like slickster kind of like, some parts of this I think, oh, that's a little over the top. But what this does have in it is Joe Hart talking about how he works on his mental game and what he works on his mental game. So I just want you to forget the little diagram of his brain and just listen to what he says. Down the aisle.
Our thoughts, they have a huge impact on how we feel. If you can learn how to think before a game, you can influence your performance on the pitch. Self-talk is a technique that positively manages your inner voice. It only takes a few minutes and helps you prepare for the 90 ahead. Let any negative thoughts go and replace them with the positive I can or I will statements, like I can stop anything or I will dominate my area. It helps if you recall a great performance from the past. My pre-game routine takes me back to the Camp Nou. Barcelona versus Manchester City, March 17, 2015. The world's most feared attack threw everything they had into that night.
Hey Martin, Joe Hart, flying out to great effect.
I stood up to it. Now, I mentally replay every save I made.
Beaten away by Hart.
I draw on the positive feelings they gave me at the time.
Did it again. He's there again.
My routine fills me with the belief that I will play at my best. It makes me realise the only person who can beat me is me.
Some of the things I like in that are, he talks a lot about visualization, and so in the video it shows him walking up the steps out into the stadium, and they were only in training in the video, but I want you to think about what I'm going to say to you that can work for you in training as well as in games. He puts himself back to Camp Nou, he said, which is a stadium, and as soon as he said that, what did you hear? Do you remember? Like he said, oh, I go back, he
The
climbed the
crowd.
stairs, oh, I go back. You heard the crowd. So what they're replicating in that little clip is when you're going to rehearse something mentally, like he's rehearsing it, you have to make it as if it's absolutely live right now. Your brain does not know the difference between something happening live and something that you're imagining to be as live as possible. That's been proven scientifically over and over and over again in sports, music, chess, all kinds of areas, computer programming. You don't physically have to do something as long as you mentally make it as real as possible. And that means making it in color. That means making the sounds come in. That means thinking about the weather, the sun, the wind. If it's at night, the lights on in the stadium, is it grass or is it turf? How tight are the socks around you? Do you tape your shin guards? What are you wearing when you're playing? Like all those things, if you bring those to life in your brain doesn't know the difference between you doing it or imagining it. And so he's displaying and demonstrating this practice of making it so real that it becomes the way he plays in the present moment. So he prepares himself by going back to something that was really an awesome and great experience for him. Now you might say, yeah, but I never had a game like that. And you don't have to. You can imagine a game like that. You can imagine a performance like that. You can simply imagine one skill. Like let's say you take the corner kicks for your team. And your team needs a certain delivery. You practice, something at the back post or a line drive at head height, whatever it is, and your team needs consistent service. You can just visually, in your mind, over and over again, play it from the start. You pick up the ball, you go down and you set it down. How many steps do you take away from the ball? What's the angle? Do you raise your hand? Do you look up even at all? At your players in the box, at where the goalkeeper is, at any of that? Do you take a breath? Then how do you approach the ball? How do you strike it? What does it feel like when you strike the ball exactly right, on the sweet spot? Going through that rehearsal and then seeing the ball go where you want it to go, it's just as if you've done it. Your brain doesn't know the difference. Trust me on this. They've taken basketball teams, and they've had one basketball team only visualize foul shots, not take a single one. They've had another basketball team practice. And they've proven there's no statistical difference. The ones that visualize shoot just as well as the ones that actually physically take the shots. A musician imprisoned for over 30 years didn't have his violin. But in prison, he would imagine that he was playing his violin. He would write music in his head. He came out of prison after 30-something years and was a better violinist than when he went in, and he had not physically touched a violin for over 30 years. And then there's more than that, but it's been proven over and over again how much your brain will respond to this kind of work. I want to show you the next clip, which is Crystal Dunn. She's from around here, isn't she? I think. Yeah. She's on the national team now, and this is a really short little video, but look at her mentality. This is what this is trying to symbolize.
At 17, I realized natural ability wasn't going to be enough. Competing at a higher level demanded more. The game got faster, the stakes bigger, the opposition stronger. I just say, okay, Crystal, what are you going to do about it? How much you give in training is never enough. At some point, you have to do extra work on your own. That's what takes you to the next level.
Go, Crystal. Drive across. Punch and drive all the way through. Good quality. Good pace.
Everyone trains. No one trains like me.
So her attitude, she's not talking about visualization. She's just talking about separating herself from other people just with her mentality. Two little quick examples for you of what people do at the highest level on the mental side of the game. I wanted to give you some answers as well as some pep talk. So, a couple of slides of this. If you lose control of yourself in stressful moments, the referee, the opponent, or whatever, I'm going to have the slide come up, maybe. Click again. You have to be aware of what your triggers are. I'm positive Zidane knew what his triggers were, but he just didn't care. He thought he was too good, it didn't matter, he was going to do what he wanted to do. You have to know what your triggers are, and you have to hit pause. You have to stop it. As you sense it's coming, you have to find a way to stop it, pause it, restart, reset, recenter. Then I want you to practice some kind of self-talk. You got to talk yourself off the ledge. Do you know what I mean by that? it's referring to like if somebody's going to commit suicide and they're on the ledge and somebody talks them down. You have to learn to talk yourself down out of this situation. So you need to practice some sort of anchor, like my performance says it all. I don't have to open my mouth. If you're a person that blurts out the wrong thing and gets a yellow card for that. If you're a person that retaliates against another player, you have to be able to say to yourself that, and you can say it in whatever way you want to, like, screw him, I'm better than that. You have to come up with some self-talk to talk you down out of these situations in the moment. And if you can't do it, find your friend who's next to you on the field and get them to help you do it. Tell that friend, hey, you see this starting, you see me going red, then, pull me, yank me, yell at me, say something. Someone can help you. Next slide. If you're a person who might have some self-doubt or uncertainty, go ahead and click again. Here's a great little trick. So, if a human being has done something and done it really well, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You need to just model them, copy them, find out what they do, and try and bring it into what you do. So I would say to you, if you're a person who has a lot of self-doubt, start to think to yourself and ask this question: what would a smart or skillful player do instead of what I do? What would that strong or smart or skillful player do today to prepare for the next? So, what are they doing on a daily basis? I need to do that too. What are they doing in a specific moment when they need to be fast or they need to be strong? Are they saying to themselves, oh, I can't do this, oh, I'm just dumb? Are they actually saying to themselves, I'm ready to do this, I'm going for this? A smart, skillful, or strong player is going to visualize themselves making decisions, utilizing their skill and thinking faster in order to play faster. A smart, skillful, or fast player is going to emphasize their strengths. You all have strengths. Don't worry so much about your weaknesses. Run with your strengths now. You can improve your weaknesses as you go, and you will improve your weaknesses. But if you're really, really good at something, then run with that. Because that's who you are. That's what you bring to the table. That comes naturally to you, right? So never put aside what you're really strong at. You think, oh, well, I'm really good at dribbling, but I really have to pass more and defend more. Of course you have to work on the things you're not good at, but never dismiss the things you're really strong at. You will have confidence when you really take hold of those things. What would a really good, strong, fast, skillful, or smart player do to get feedback on their play and their progress? So if you have self-doubt, you need to seek that feedback that they might seek as well. Copy imagine what would Messi say or do or think in this moment? Or someone that you really look up to. You probably all have a favorite player of some sort. What would they do in the situation you're in? And act like them until you do have your self-confidence, until you do have your certainty. Okay? I'm trying to whiz through this. If you're a person that can't seem to get intense, now this is usually not a male problem, this is usually a female problem, just saying. But if you're getting some intensity going, you have to first leverage yourself. Why is this intensity so important? What's the difference between a training session where you're intense and not intense? Night and day. And what does it do for your team when you're intense versus not intense? Remind yourself what you lose without intensity on demand. Mentally rehearse what I look like, sound like, and feel like when I'm intense. And how are you measuring your intensity? How do you know when you're intense and how do you know when you're not intense? You feel it? You hear it? Your teammates sort of give you some feedback, I would say. And you need to be continuously monitoring that if you're a person that's lacking intensity. Double click me. This is a huge one. This is a pet peeve of mine. So people get injured, right? There's probably some injured people here in this room. So you know the first thing the injured people do is they leave. They just leave. They don't come to training, or they go sit on the gator about 30 yards away from training and sit there and huddle in their sweats and chat to the trainer or the other injured people and don't even kind of look over at the field. And that is where you are doomed. When you are injured, you have to put yourself right back on the side of the session. If we're doing a passing exercise, stand right up next to it. Imagine that you're doing what those players are doing. Make the same decision they would make, or not, if it's not a great decision. Put yourself in the session in your mind and talk. You've got time, you've got space, standing on the side. Talk, 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 talk. For your team, with your team, at your team, because that's what you can give when you're injured, and it makes you a better player. Practice your visualization skills. Try and think like the coach thinks. What are they trying to coach? Are they getting the results? Are people responding to what they're coaching? Oh, what could I do if I was in there? Like brain work when you're injured. And the other thing I want to say to you is give to your team when you're injured, for crying out loud. Get some music going for people. Be funny. Bring fun things to the table. Be really encouraging. Like, give to your team when you're injured. That's the beautiful part of when someone has the time and space to give. Give to your team. You will find that your recovery goes faster. You will find a new bond with your team. You will find that you're a better player when you come off an injury, lots of times when you do these things. I'm going to close here because I think you're going to go out in the rain and play. Managing yourself takes practice, you guys. It's not an easy skill necessarily. Some people, it comes naturally. Some people have to really work at it. You spend how many hours a week running, dribbling, shooting, practicing physical stuff? How much time do you give to the mental side of it? 10 minutes? Maybe not even. Purposeful minutes? So I'm going to say to you, you got to fit a half an hour a week in. That's my request. Fit a half an hour week in of reflection, if nothing else. Practice visualizing. Practice noticing what's a trigger for you, like when you feel down, or when you feel mad, or when you just don't feel like going to practice, or when you're distracted and thinking about things off the field, away from practice, when you should be focusing on the right now. 30 minutes a week. It will definitely change the way you play. It will carry into other parts of your life as well. All of a sudden people will be like, oh, God, he's changed a lot. Look at that. Your parents, your siblings, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, they'll all notice when you bring this up. Hey, we have to be politically correct. And my final statement is, some people think they can change things by like going to a new team or getting new friends or just changing their environment. And I'm just going to remind you that wherever you go, there you are. So you have to take care of you and change you from within, because you're going to be there no matter where you go.